Access your free language gifts of the month right now. Here's what you're getting this month. First, the Being Funny conversation cheat sheet. Want to be able to tell jokes in your target language or tell someone how funny or unfunny they are? You will with this brand new cheat sheet. Second, all the language you need for everyday life. Get all of our best conversation cheat sheets rolled up into one with this gift. Download it right now before it disappears. Third, must-know book vocabulary. If you love reading and want to talk about books, then this next 1-minute lesson is for you. Fourth, phrases to use with the doctor. Learn how to say phrases like, I have an appointment, I don't feel well, and much more. Fifth, summer plans conversation lesson. Can you talk about your summer plans, such as go travel, relax at the beach, or stay at home and sit on the internet? You will with this 1-minute lesson. Access it right now. Sixth, free audiobooks. Unlock our huge library of language learning audiobooks. Save them to any device and listen and learn. They're yours to keep forever. And finally, the deal of the month. If you want to finally master the language with lessons by real teachers and our complete language learning program, get 31% off Premium or Premium Plus with the Pretty Big Deal sale. So, to get your gifts and language learning resources, click the link in the description below. Download them right now before they expire. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about some phrasal verbs that use the word time. These are expressions relating to time and how to use it or not. So let's get started. Okay, first expression is to spend time. To spend time means to use time, yes, but we think of it as a resource. Here we have spend, which we also use for something like money, which we think of as a resource. We have limited amounts of that resource. So when we say we're going to spend time with something, we're thinking about time as a resource. We have a limited amount of time and we choose to use that time for something. So an example of this, I spent time studying last night. So I used my resource, my time resource, to study. I spent time studying last night. Okay, let's move along to the second expression, which is make time. Make time. To make time means to remove things from a schedule to do something. It's like to do something else. So you have an established schedule, a set schedule, but there's another activity you would like to do. So you need to choose something to remove from the existing schedule in order to do this new activity. So we say that's called making time, to make time. So you're creating time in your schedule, creating time in your life for a new activity. An example of this is, can you make time for a meeting? So you could use this when you're talking to a busy person, like, could you please make time for a meeting? Meaning, could you please change part of your schedule to arrange a meeting with us? So please make time, create time. This relates to another expression here, which is find time, very similar to make time. But the difference here, find time refers to searching a schedule for available time. So instead of removing time from your schedule, we use find time to mean looking at the schedule and searching for an open place. Like you search on a calendar, for example, for a specific day or for a specific time to do an activity. So we use the expression find time to talk about that. An example of this, let's find time to catch up. Let's find time to catch up. So in other words, we don't need to remove something from our schedule, so we don't use make time here, but find time. So let's find some point in our schedules that is good for both of us where we can catch up. So it's a little less serious sounding than make time. So find time is more like, let's just meet, let's get together at a point that's good for both of us. We don't need to remove anything from our schedules. Okay, let's move along to the next expression, which is waste time, to waste time. So waste, waste relates to throwing something away, like trash or garbage. So waste time means to use time in a non-productive way. Non-productive, so that means you're not doing something useful with your time. An example of this, I wasted so much time on video games. So in other words, playing video games was a useless way to spend my time. So I did not do something productive. The speaker feels that playing video games was a waste of time, a useless way to use time. Okay, this is similar then to the next expression, which is kill time. To kill time sounds quite violent, but it's actually not. To kill time means to do something until a specific time. So that means typically you are waiting for something. For example, you have a 3 o'clock meeting. You arrive at the location 30 minutes early. You have to wait until the 3 o'clock meeting. Until the 3 o'clock meeting, you can kill time. So that means you find something to do. It's usually useless, like maybe checking social media or you're watching TV somewhere. So you're killing time. So you're doing something that's typically not important until something else happens, like your meeting begins or the person you're waiting for arrives. An example, I'm killing time until my mom arrives at the station. So in this case, the speaker is waiting at the station for his or her mother to arrive. So until that time, until the mother arrives, the speaker is killing time, doing something probably useless or just walking around, so doing nothing really important, just killing time. Okay, let's move on to the last expression here, which is take time. So many people ask the difference between take time and spend time. Take time is used to mean to use time for a specifically chosen activity. So we have decided to do this thing with our time. Take time and spend time, they can be used in pretty much the same situations. Remember, spend time is used kind of to have the nuance of using time as a resource, something there's a finite amount of. Take time doesn't necessarily have that same nuance of a resource, but it does sound like you're specifically choosing to use your time for that specific activity. So an example of this is he took time to visit his grandma. He took time to visit his grandma. So he specifically chose to use his time for this activity. So it sounds like there was a clear decision made here. We could substitute spend here, like he spent time visiting his grandma, for example. That would be fine as well, but either are okay here. So you can kind of choose which you prefer. If you want to make it sound like a resource, I suppose, you could use spend time. But take time also just sounds like, yeah, you really made a clear decision for what to do with your schedule. So I hope that these expressions help you express a little bit better how you use time and think about time in English. Of course, if you have any questions or comments or want to practice using one of these expressions, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the future perfect tense for statements. I'm not going to talk about making questions, but just simple positive and negative statements with this grammar point. So let's get started. All right, let's begin with the use of the future perfect tense. Why do we use this grammar point? We use future perfect tense to refer to actions that will or will not be finished at a specific point in the future. So a key for this grammar point is we need a deadline. We need some point in the future for an action to be finished or not finished. So again, on this sort of like image and this sort of timeline, if we're speaking now in the present about a specific point in the future, this could be like tomorrow, it could be 8 o'clock, it could be next year. If we're talking about some point in the future, we want to refer to an action that will, at that point in time in the future, be finished, or by that point in time will not be finished. So When we make future perfect tense sentences, as I've started doing, we use will or will not. So when we make a positive statement with this grammar point, we use will plus have plus the past participle form of the verb. I'll show some examples in just a moment. So will have plus past participle. When we make the negative form of this grammar point, we use will not, or we reduce it, we contract it to won't plus have and the past participle. So we use these just to make simple statements. This is the pattern for statements only. So let's look at how we can use these in some example sentences. Let's look at this first one. I will have something, my new job, by this time next year. So by shows us our deadline. So in this case, by this time next year, this is our point in the future. So at this time, the following year, this thing we see will have something, my new job. Here the verb is start. The past participle form of the verb start is started. So the sentence is, I will have started my new job by this time next year. So meaning, at this time next year, at this point in the year, next year, my new job will have started. So that means sometime before this point in time, I'm going to start my job. And that means at this point in time, the action will be complete. I'll be done. So the starting action, this start action, will have begun somewhere before that, and like I'll be working, maybe. So by this time next year, I will have started my new job. Okay, let's look at another example. Here, she'll. I've used she'll here. This is she will. So again, very common to contract, to reduce will in these cases. She'll have something, her homework, by 8. So in this case, we have a time which marks our deadline, by 8. So our specific point in the future is 8, maybe 8 p.m., 8 at night. She will have, she'll have, the verb is finish. The past participle form of the verb is finished. She'll have finished her homework by 8. So that means by this deadline of 8 o'clock, her homework will be done. So that means before 8 o'clock, in this period before 8 o'clock, somewhere in here, she'll make the last steps on her homework. So by this time, everything will be done. Everything will be finished by here. Okay, so that could mean she finishes before 8. It just means 8 o'clock as the deadline. By that time, everything will be finished. Okay, let's go to another example sentence. Here we see the deadline at the beginning of the sentence. By 10 p.m., we'll have something, dinner, already. Here the verb is eat. So the past participle form of the verb eat is eaten, eaten. By 10 p.m., we'll have eaten dinner already. So this means by 10 p.m., we will have finished eating dinner. So already shows us that an expected action is finished. So it's finished before the time period indicated, or finished before the point in time indicated. Something is done. So by 10 p.m., we'll have eaten dinner already means sometime before 10 p.m., we ate dinner. So by this time, we will be finished, in other words. We will have eaten dinner somewhere before that time. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The verb here is arrive. Here we have a negative though. So I've given a very open sentence here. They won't have something something yet. We could add a deadline here. For example, by 9 a.m., they won't have, plus our past participle form, arrived yet. By 9 a.m., they won't have arrived yet. So here we see an action that will not be complete by our deadline. So by 9 a.m., in this case, by 9 a.m., some people we are expecting to come they will not be here. They won't have arrived yet. That means probably some point in the future they're going to arrive. But by this deadline, by this point in time, they will not have arrived. So in this period before 9 a.m., they will not have arrived. So that means that probably in the future, sometime in the future, they'll arrive. So here, a couple hints here. We have the negative, they won't have arrived yet. Reminder, yet shows us expectations. So we're expecting someone to arrive in this case. We're expecting people to come. We're expecting people to arrive somewhere. But by this time, it will not have happened. It will not have happened. Okay, let's move along to the next example. Again, a negative. He won't have something, the paperwork, by tomorrow. Our verb is check. The past participle form of check is checked. He won't have checked the paperwork by tomorrow. So deadline is tomorrow. By tomorrow, he won't have checked the paperwork. So between now, present tense, and this point tomorrow, by tomorrow, the paperwork checking will not be completed. It won't be done. So maybe in the future here. He won't have checked the paperwork by tomorrow. Shows in this time period, the action will not be completed. Okay, one more example. I won't have something, the house yet. I won't have something, the house yet. So again, here I didn't really include a specific deadline. It's just kind of an open expression. Let's add one here. So by, I don't know, 9 a.m. again. By 9 a.m., I won't have something. So here my verb is leave. Leave, the past participle of leave is left. I won't have left the house yet. I won't have left the house yet. So again, deadline, by 9 a.m., I won't have left the house yet. By this point in time, I will still be in my house, in other words. So I'm expecting, again, we see yet here, I'm expecting to leave the house, but by 9 a.m., by this point, I will not have left the house. Means I will still be inside my house. I will leave maybe after 9 a.m. So keep in mind with this grammar point, there's typically a deadline that's clear. Though in some of these cases, I didn't write the clear deadline because when you're like using this grammar point in speech, sometimes from the conversation, you understand the deadline. And so we drop it in conversation. So if speaker A is talking about 9 a.m. as a deadline, speaker B doesn't necessarily have to say the deadline again. Oftentimes, speaker B, in this case, drops the deadline and just gives an open statement like this. They won't have arrived yet, or I won't have left the house yet. So you don't have to include your deadline in your statement if it's understood, if everyone in the conversation understands the deadline. It's quite common to drop it. But for this lesson, I included a deadline. I just wanted to point out that sometimes we do omit this portion. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to the future perfect tense and making statements with future perfect tense. I hope that it was useful for you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making a sentence with this grammar point, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. 10 words and phrases for dating and romantic relationships. Let's go. Like. The first word is like, the verb like. We use like when we initially develop feelings for someone. So we can say like, I really like the girl in my class, or I really like the boy in my class, for example. So like is like the first feelings of like simple attraction, to like someone. This is a word that's used a lot by children, like junior high school or maybe high school aged kids. And you can also use it in adult relationships as well, like at those first stages of a relationship. Like, I really like you, for example. So using like can express something a little bit stronger, a little bit more romantic if you use it in that way. In a sentence, I really like him. Have a crush on. The next word is have a crush on someone. To have a crush on someone. So to have a crush on someone, this is usually used by like teenagers. It's kind of a young people word. So to have a crush on someone means you have a really strong attraction to someone, but maybe you don't know them very well yet, or you haven't had a chance to speak with them a lot yet. So this is something like if you regularly see someone like at your workplace or at like another event or at school, and maybe you think they're physically really attractive, or maybe you've heard them speaking before and you think they're attractive. There's something about them that really, really strongly interests you, but maybe you don't know them very well yet. You can say, I have a crush on that person. Like I have a crush on him, or I have a crush on her. Like you don't really know them so well, but you really, really are interested in them. That's called a crush, a crush. In a sentence, do you have a crush on your coworker? Love. The next word is love, love. So love, at least in American English, we tend to use in more serious situations. So it's beyond a crush. It's beyond like. Love is a more serious word that we use, usually when we have known someone for a long time, or we have just like this very, very strong and deep attraction to a person. So we can say, I love you, or like, do you love me? That kind of thing. We can say that, but it has kind of like a serious implication. There's a very serious sort of nuance behind the word love. So love is stronger than like or crush, and it has like a serious feeling about it. We can also use the word love for our friends and our family members too, but the same nuance of like a strong and serious connection remains. When you use it with your friends and your family members, though, it doesn't mean romantically. It just means you have like that very close bond with that person. Like, I love you guys, for example, with your friends is a very common phrase. But saying I love you to your partner is quite strong. So please use this phrase with caution and care. In a sentence, I think you should tell her you love her. Date. The next word is date. Date. So to date someone means that you meet someone regularly in like a romantic way. So traditionally, like dates could be like dinner and a movie, or going out for coffee together, or enjoying dinner together, going to the park or the beach, or maybe traveling somewhere. So a date is time with only the two of you to get to know each other and to get to know each other more romantically. So we can use the word date a little bit loosely. If I say, for example, I'm going on a date with my girlfriends today, girlfriends in the plural, it means I'm going out for a fun afternoon maybe, or a fun evening with the women in my life who are closest to me, very close to me, my girlfriends. So my close girlfriends. So we can use the word date for friends as well. But if you say like, I'm going on a date with my boyfriend, or I'm going on a date with my wife, it sounds like intimate time for the two of you to be together. A date. A date can be used as a noun, and we can use it as a verb. Like, how long have you been dating? In a sentence, we've been dating for about 6 months. See. The next word is see. See. This is an important word, at least in American English, because it means to be in a relationship with someone. We use the word see in the same way that we use the word date. Like, I've been seeing this guy for 6 months. Or, are you seeing anyone? Or, I'm thinking about seeing someone new. So see in this way means like to spend time with romantically, like going on dates with a person. So if you hear someone use see in this way about a person, it means like a romantic relationship with that person. In a sentence, are you seeing anyone? Exclusive. The next word is exclusive. Exclusive. So exclusive, depending on the relationship and depending on how you know that person, exclusive means you are only seeing that person. So perhaps when a relationship is not so serious, maybe at the beginning stages, maybe you or your partner perhaps might have, I don't know, someone else in their life that they're thinking of maybe dating seriously, or maybe there are a couple of other people that you might be thinking, I could see myself spending time with that person seriously. But again, every relationship is different. I don't know. But some people might use the word exclusive to mean I only want to see this person and I want this person to only see me. Like, to be exclusive means like these two people only see each other. They are exclusive to each other, essentially. Some people have exclusive relationships. The opposite then of an exclusive relationship could be an open relationship. Some people agree to have an open relationship where their partners can see other people. I don't know. There are many people in the world. Break up. The next word is break up. Break up. To break up means to end a relationship. So we use break up before marriage. If a couple is just dating, they're just seeing each other and they decide to finish the relationship, they decide to stop seeing each other, we use the word break up to describe that. So like, I broke up with my boyfriend last night, or like, don't break up with me, or I think we should break up. These are all words, these are all expressions that we use with regard to ending a relationship. Ending a relationship is called breaking up. In a sentence, I think we should break up. Propose. The next word is propose, to propose. So to propose, if a relationship is continuing well and everything is great, presumably, or I don't know, for any number of reasons, the couple decides they would like to get married. We use the verb to propose, which is like a short way of saying to propose marriage. So to propose means like to set out an idea, to give someone an idea for something. So traditionally, this comes from the man, like the man will propose to the woman in the relationship. Though I've heard of cases where women propose to men as well. So to propose means to suggest marriage to the other person, to propose. In a sentence, what do you think is the best way to propose? Cheat. 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 So to cheat is a word we use. This is typically for like exclusive relationships, but to cheat means one partner, or perhaps both partners, see or date or spend time with another romantic partner when they are not supposed to. So if person A and person B are in an exclusive relationship and person B meets someone else romantically, that's called cheating. They are cheating. So it's typically considered a negative thing in most cultures. Cheating is typically bad. In a sentence, my roommate was cheating on her boyfriend. Marry. The last word, the next word is marry, marry. So to marry, or you might also hear to get married. We use both of these to refer to that ceremony where the couple decides they're going to spend forever together and legally they become a family. So please be careful. We don't say get married with someone. Sometimes I hear students say this. We don't say, I want to get married with, or my brother got married with. We use the preposition to. So, my brother got married to his high school girlfriend. That's true. Or, what kind of person do you want to marry? I want to marry a kind person. So, please be careful. When you use the verb marry, just marry, no get married. Like, I want to marry someone. I don't want to marry someone. We're probably going to follow the verb marry with a person or a kind of person. If we're saying I want to get married, we'll follow it with to, the preposition to, and then the extra information. So I want to get married to a certain kind of person. You can also describe the location of like a wedding. Like I want to get married in a church. I want to get married on the beach. So keep in mind there's some variation. There are many different ways we can use marry and get married. But those are just a couple points. In a sentence, do at a bank. These are going to be some phrases that include some key verbs and some key nouns for using at the bank. Let's go. Make a deposit. Make a deposit. Make a deposit. So a deposit means putting money into the bank. So putting your money into your bank account to make a deposit. So deposit means put in. So deposit your lunch in the bag. What? Deposit your money in the bank account. So put money into your bank account is make a deposit. In a sentence, I'd like to make a deposit. Make a withdrawal. The next word is make a withdrawal. Make a withdrawal. So withdrawal is a hard word to say. Withdrawal. So the W sound in this word is kind of softened a lot. A withdrawal. We don't really say withdrawal here. Make a withdrawal. It's sort of like a long all sound. All. Withdrawal. Make a withdrawal. So to make a withdrawal is the opposite of making a deposit. So making a withdrawal is taking money out of your bank account. To remove money from your bank account. That's to make a withdrawal. In a sentence, I need to make a withdrawal from my savings account. Open, close an account. The next word, or the next pair actually, is open an account and close an account. So to open an account means to start a new bank account at the bank. To close an account means to finish your account, or maybe to remove any money, to withdraw any money in the account and finish the account. So you remove your account from that bank. So to open means to start a new account. To close an account means to remove your account from that bank. In a sentence, I'm going to open a new account for my business. Apply for a loan. The next expression is apply for a loan. Apply for a loan. Many banks also offer loan services. This can be home loans, or maybe for vehicle loans, or maybe college loans as well. So to apply for a loan is something you can do at a bank. Fill out some paperwork and present it to the bank staff. Apply for a loan. In a sentence, where can I apply for a home loan? Apply for a credit card. The next expression is apply for a credit card. To apply for a credit card. So many banks, again, have credit cards available for their customers to use. So if you would like a credit card, or if you would like to try to get a credit card, you need to complete an application at the bank, or maybe it's an online application. So filling in your financial details, your personal details, and so on. So to apply for a credit card. In a sentence, you can apply for a credit card online. Check your balance. The next expression is check your balance. Check your balance. So balance means the amount of money in your account. That's what balance means. So to check your balance means to check how much money is in your bank account. You can do this online. Of course, you can do this at the bank, but I think nowadays most people check it online. In a sentence, check your balance through online banking. Cash a check. The next expression is cash a check. Cash a check. So a check is a type of payment that we use in the United States, though I think it's less common these days. So a check is a piece of paper that, if it's my check, for example, the check is attached to my bank account. The piece of paper has my bank account number and a number that's special, that designates, that tells someone which bank the account belongs to. It's called a routing number. So on this piece of paper, which has my name and maybe my contact information, I can write an amount of money. If I want to pay someone $100, I can write $100 to Meg, or $100 to someone, and I can write why I'm giving them that money. So if I want to write a check, I can write my check and say this check is to Meg. It's $100 for a video, for example. So this is a way to pay someone for something quickly if you don't have cash. So maybe you don't have cash and you can't use a credit card for some reason. So just like personal transactions, we can still record those transactions by using the account number and the routing number. And this check, if using a check, you can still track it in your account as well. So checks are useful sometimes. In a sentence, speak to a bank teller to cash your check. Bonus vocabulary word. Teller is the word that we use for staff at the bank. So teller means a person who works with money, or accounting, that sort of thing, who keeps track of money. A teller, a bank teller, is someone who counts money and helps with transactions at the bank. Fill out a deposit slip. The next expression is fill out a deposit slip. Fill out a deposit slip. So fill out means write, essentially. So before you make a deposit, or maybe before you make a withdrawal at the bank, you need to fill out, which means write your information on a deposit slip. So a slip is a small piece of paper. That's what slip means as a noun. A deposit slip, for example, or maybe a withdrawal slip. There's also one. So if you would like to put money into your account, you can fill out a deposit slip that says how much money, the name of your account, or your account name rather, your name, and maybe the account number. Did I already say that? I don't know. But a deposit slip. Fill out a deposit slip to deposit your money. In a sentence, fill out a deposit slip before you speak to the teller. Make a transfer. The next expression is make a transfer. Make a transfer. We could use this for make an international transfer as well. So a transfer means sending money from one bank account to another bank account. This could mean sending money from one account in one bank to another account in the same bank, or it could mean sending money to an international account. But either way, there's no cash, like physical cash, being transferred. It's an electronic transfer, to make a bank transfer, to make a transfer. In a sentence, I'll make the transfer tomorrow. Manage finances. The next expression is manage finances. Manage finances. You might see this in like bank advertisements, like managing your finances or helping you manage your finances or something like that. So to manage your finances just means control your money. It's to control your money. So your finances is like your bank accounts, your cash, all of your loans or credit cards or whatever. All of that is finances. And then manage means like to control or to take care of something. So banks will say, like, let us help you manage your finances. Let us help you take care of your money, in other words. In a sentence, 10 words and phrases for driving. Keep in mind, you'll see a lot of phrasal verbs in driving and in transportation in general. We're going to talk about a few in this lesson. Let's go. Start. The first word is start. Start. To start is just to turn on the car. So I don't know, old cars, it was just turn the key and that would, ignite the engine, get the engine going. But now you can just you can push a button to start cars too. So depending on the type of car, I don't know. But essentially to begin your car experience, we need to first start the car. So start the car. In a sentence, start the car, it's freezing. Pull out, pull in. The next one is actually a pair. So we have pull out and pull in. So we use these two words when we're leaving or when we're going into, for example, a parking space. So when we are leaving a parking space in a car, we often say pull out of the parking space. When we are entering a parking space, we can say pull in to the parking space. So just keep that in mind. So when you're leaving, pull out of a location. When you're entering something, pull in to a location. So pull into the garage or pull into a parking space. In a sentence, pull out of the garage and go left. Merge. The next word is merge. Merge. So to merge means two or more things come together as one. So you might hear this with like companies, like company A and company B merged. We use this in driving for lanes. So the lines on the road show us the lanes for driving. Sometimes these lanes merge together to become one lane or to become one highway as well. We can see that too. So merging just means that the roads or the lanes are going to come together. You will see this on signs like merging lanes up ahead, for example. In a sentence, the lanes merge up ahead. Change lanes. The next expression is change lanes. Change lanes. So if you're on a road that has more than one lane, so we use the word lane to mean those like the separate lines on the highway that we can drive between. If you would like to move to the neighboring one, the next lane, we use the expression to change lanes, like change lanes before the intersection, for example. In a sentence, look all around your car before you change lanes. Blinker. The next word is blinker. Blinker. Blinker is kind of the casual word for it because it's an onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia means like the sound that a word makes. So blinker is many of these make kind of a tick, tick, tick sound as they're on. So they flash to show we're going to make a turn. So blinker is kind of a casual word for this on the back and the front light. But we also use the word turn signal. So these are the lights on the fronts and the backs of cars that show a driver is turning. So a right turn signal, left turn signal, front and back. But we also call them blinkers. So in a sentence, use your blinker when making a turn. Windshield wipers. The next expression is windshield wipers. Windshield wipers. So these are those objects on the front. They're outside the car. They're in front of the glass that protects the driver from wind. So the windshield. So on rainy days or on days maybe with bad weather, I don't know what's happening, but when there's something on the windshield, we use the windshield wipers to wipe the shield clean. So windshield wipers, they're these things. They do this. So a windshield wiper keeps the windshield clear of maybe like debris or like maybe leaves or something or rain as well. So windshield wipers are important. In a sentence, windshield wipers are important on rainy days. Pass. The next word is pass. Pass as a verb, to pass. So if you are behind a very slow-moving vehicle, like a really big truck that's transporting something, you want to go around that vehicle, we use the verb pass to describe that. So if I'm following a truck and I say, oh, it's so slow, I'm going to pass this truck. And then that means you wait for a passing lane, in some cases, to go around safely. So to pass someone is to go beyond someone. So yeah, that's all it means. In a sentence, you need to pass this guy. He's so slow. Fast lane. The next expression is fast lane. Fast lane. Especially on highways, there might be one lane that's used for the fastest driving cars, the cars that want to move at the fastest speed. So we call that the fast lane, the fast lane. There is also a slow lane. We can say that, actually on highways, typically the outermost lane is the slow lane and the innermost lane is the fast lane. Why? Because the outermost lane is closest to the exits. So if there's an exit or an off-ramp for the highway, the slow lane has the most direct access to that. The fast lane, however, is cars that want to continue down the highway for a longer period of time. So they don't have any need to stop for a while. So fast lane, and there's a slow lane. In a sentence, use the fast lane. Break the speed limit. The next expression is break the speed limit. Break the speed limit. So we use the verb break for laws, for rules, to break a rule, to break the law. We use it in this case too. The speed limit is a law, how fast you are allowed to go. The maximum speed, the speed limit. So to break the speed limit means you are breaking the law. It's a bad thing. So to break the speed limit, if you are caught by a police officer, you may have to pay a fine, or you may get a ticket, or you may go to jail. I don't know. So in a sentence, you're breaking the speed limit. Slow down. Get pulled over. The next expression is get pulled over. To get pulled over means in your car, the police stop you. So the police turn on their sirens and follow you in their car, and you have to pull your car over to the side of the road and speak to the police officer because of some problem that you have. So maybe you were speeding. You broke the speed limit. We use the expression speeding for that. Or maybe you have a light. One of your blinkers is out, for example. Or maybe there's a problem with your license plate or the tags on your car. So the tags refers to your car's registration. So maybe there's some problem with your car, or maybe you had some kind of bad behavior. I don't know. But to get pulled over is typically a bad thing. A police officer has identified you in your car as a problem somehow. So to get pulled over, meaning the police make you pull your car off the road to speak to you. In a sentence, I was speeding and got pulled over by the police. 10 things to do at the office. These are going to be 10 verbs or 10 expressions with verbs in them that you can use when you are at the office. Let's go. Check email. The first expression is check email. To check email means just to look and see if you have new messages, or you need to write a message, or is there new information that you need to be aware of. So just to check your email is to check the information that has been sent to you. In a sentence, I check email throughout the day. Make copies. The next expression is make copies. Make copies. So to make a copy means to go to the copy machine and put your document on the machine, and then you duplicate it. Anyway, make copies. To make copies of a document is to duplicate the document using the copy machine. In a sentence, can you make 4 copies of this? Schedule a meeting. Schedule a meeting. Schedule a meeting. So to schedule a meeting means to create a meeting and tell the other people about the meeting at that specific time. To schedule a meeting. So to make a plan for a meeting, essentially. In a sentence, I'll schedule the meeting for 11 tomorrow. Make a call. The next is actually a pair. We have take a call and make a call. So to take a call means to receive a call. So a phone call comes to you. Make a call, however, means the call comes from you. Like, I need to make a call to my mother today, or I need to make a call to the client later this afternoon. In the reverse, you can say, I really need to take this call. Okay. In a sentence, I need to take this call. Write a report. The next expression is write a report. Write a report. So we do this after a task has finished. Something has been completed. We need to write about that task and the results. So we write a report about that thing. In a sentence, I've got a few reports to write by the end of the day. Attend a meeting. The next expression is attend a meeting. Attend a meeting. So attend means go to, or attend means participate, essentially. So attend a meeting means go to the meeting, participate in the meeting. In a sentence, please attend the staff meeting on Friday. Have a conference call. The next expression is have a conference call. Have a conference call. A conference call means a phone call with many participants. So this can mean participants from your company sharing like the phone in one room, many people using one phone on speakerphone so that everyone in the room can listen. So there's that, but the person on the end of the line, the person on the other end of the line in this case might be one person, or it might be another group of people, or it might be several groups all speaking on the same phone call. So a conference call means a phone call or perhaps a video call with many different participants. In a sentence, we have a conference call scheduled for 3 today. Submit a timesheet. The next expression is submit a timesheet. Submit a timesheet. So to submit is like to present, to give your boss or to give a manager a timesheet. A timesheet is a record of your working hours. So what time did you start work and what time did you finish work? So submitting that might be something you do at the end of the month. In a sentence, please submit your timesheet by the end of the week. Clock in, clock out. The next expression is another pair of expressions. It's clock in and clock out. These are the expressions we use when we start work and we record it in a time system, and we end work and we record the time. So when we clock in is when we come to the office and we begin work. When we arrive at the office, we clock in. We register, we are at work, we are at the office. We clock out when we leave the office at the end of the day. In a sentence, don't forget to clock in and clock out every day. Go to lunch. The next expression is go to lunch. Go to lunch. So you can say eat lunch, but if you say go to lunch, it sounds a little bit more friendly, a little more casual. So to go to lunch means to take your lunch break. I'm going to go to lunch. In a sentence, we're going to go to lunch. The top 5 mistakes that English learners make. Let's go.
Let's start.
The position of adjectives. So the first mistake to talk about today is the position of adjectives. What do you mean, like the position of adjectives? Do your students make mistakes with this?
Let me think. Very often I heard my students say that this is a house beautiful. So have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, actually, my students are Japanese. They often make the same mistake because the word order in Japanese uses the noun first and then the adjective.
Oh yeah, the same in Vietnamese because people usually translate from our mother language to English. So in Vietnam, we have nhà means house, and đẹp means beautiful. And then we translate it, we have nhà đẹp means house beautiful. But actually, it's incorrect, right?
Right.
So what is the right order, the right position of adjective?
Yeah, so we should put the adjective before the noun. So in this example sentence, beautiful house is correct.
It should be, this is a beautiful house, right? Can you explain that?
Well, I mean, there are some phrases that are we just use the same kind of patterns for them. So using just a simple adjective and a noun together, whatever the adjective, or maybe there are more adjectives we want to use, like in this example of a beautiful house, or I think you said like a red house, for example.
Yeah.
We should put the adjectives together before the noun always. Like that's a beautiful red house.
Yeah, normally sometimes I hear some students say that a dress, red, long. When you want to describe their dress, actually, what is the correct one?
Right. So in the same as we saw with the first example sentence, we should put the adjectives before the noun. So in this case, I think it was long and red.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long red dress.
A long red dress. It should be the correct one, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone make sure to put the adjective in front of the noun.
The order of personal pronouns, you and I, or I and you. Good. Okay. So the next mistake to talk about is the order of personal pronouns. So an example of this is like you and I, or I and you.
Yeah, it's very funny for this because many people just say I and somebody do something. Yeah. I heard that a lot in Vietnam. So have you heard that in Japan?
I see. Yes, I have heard that. Like I and Chang are making a video. It's like, not quite. I've heard that too.
So it's not correct one, right?
That's right. That's right. It's not correct. So we should say Chang and I are making a video. That's the correct sentence here.
So in your opinion, what could be the reason for this mistake?
The reason for the mistake? Oh, that's a trick. Well, it depends on the country. For your students, I would imagine it's perhaps a word order issue for Vietnamese students.
Because in Vietnamese, we usually say tôi và. It means I and somebody.
When you are in a situation where you're doing something with other people, it does sound kind of strange to say I and you or I and Chang did something. So as you're saying, I think it's better to put I at the end.
Okay, so when you want to put yourself in a list with the others, remember to put yourself at last. For example, I would say, Alicia and I are making a video. It's going to be a perfect one.
Exactly. Sounds good.
Confusion over active and passive voice. And the next mistake will be the confusion over active and passive voice.
This is a really common one, I think. Yeah. Do you have an example of how this works?
Yes, of course, because it's a very common mistake. For example, in Vietnam, people sometimes say, I went out with my friends yesterday.
That's a perfect example of like it's better to use just a simple active voice to explain that. I went out with my friends yesterday.
Yeah, it should be I went out with my friends yesterday. It's because in this case it's the active voice, right?
Exactly.
It's not passive. It's not passive in this case.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I've heard another example of it, like something, just a simple action, like an everyday action, like in passive voice, the door was opened by my teacher, for example. It's like a sentence like that. We can understand the sentence, but it doesn't need to be in passive.
Yeah, and it's not natural, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we should say that my teacher opened the door.
Yeah,
it's natural and it's easier to communicate, I think.
Exactly. So if you're thinking like, how do I know when should I use active voice? When should I use passive voice? When you want to express like the person doing the action is not so important, or you don't know who did the action, like for example, if your phone was stolen.
Yeah.
But we don't know who stole the phone.
So
we
you
don't
use
know.
passive voice.
Use passive voice then, Or if that person is not important, use passive voice.
Yeah. And sometimes if you try to translate from your mother language into English, so don't try to translate word by word.
So another daily life example could be like maybe my mother cooking dinner, for example. So I could say, my mother cooked dinner in the active voice, or dinner was cooked by my mother. In that sentence, in the active sentence, it's clear who is the person who cooked dinner. It's my mother. Like she's the important part here. If I say dinner was cooked by my mother.
So dinner is more important than my mother.
Exactly. So it sounds not so nice. So dinner was cooked by my mother.
I love my mother a lot. So.
Me too. So it's like we should say my mother cooked dinner. That's a much better choice.
Yeah. So for daily use, we should use active voice.
Active voice is very nice.
Incorrect use of present continuous. So number 4 would be incorrect use of present continuous.
That's a very common problem I've heard. Absolutely. So using the continuous with a verb that we probably should not use the continuous form with.
Yeah, for example, if I want to say that I love my boyfriend a lot, people will say that I am loving him. I'm loving him. Normally, we just say, I love him. We don't need to put it in present continuous in this case.
Or when people talk about the sports or their hobbies that they enjoy, they might say, for example, I am liking baseball. Or I am liking football, for example. But in the same way, we should not use the continuous tense there. Let's just use the simple present tense. I like baseball. I like football. So when you're using these like mental state or emotion or feeling verbs, usually we use them in the simple present tense. Of course, sometimes we use a word like thinking.
Yeah, but sometimes I still hear that people say, I'm thinking about something.
Exactly.
So why we use think in kind present continuous, and in which case we don't use that in present continuous?
Exactly. Well, in that case, that's a perfect example using the word think in the continuous tense. That's sort of like an action. Like at that moment, I'm thinking about something. That's an action in my mind.
That's an action.
Exactly. So in that case, it's okay to use it in the continuous tense.
So we have to clarify the verbs is an action or the verbs is kind of emotional state, right?
Exactly.
A status.
Your example of like, I am loving my boyfriend. It sounds a little like, like, well, that's a little different. Like, but what other crazy examples can we think of? Like, oh, sometimes my students say understanding. They use it like they say like I am not understanding. I'm like thank you, that's very helpful for me. But you should say I don't understand. I don't understand in the present tense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alicia, so can you give us some verbs? Usually in simple present, not in present continuous.
Yeah, so we talked about, for example, like and love, know and understand.
Fear, hate.
Yeah.
A lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those very like emotion-related words, those are definitely good examples of this.
So just make sure to think about your verb.
Think.
Think.
Are you thinking about your verbs? Answering the negative questions.
And the next mistake, and a very common mistake, is answering the negative question.
Answering negative questions. So, for example, a question that begins with a negative word, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
For example, I will take an example.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, people will ask you, don't you want to learn English?
Don't you? Don't you?
Yeah, don't you want to learn English? People will say, yes, I don't. Or, no, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I do. Yeah, very confusing.
Right. Actually, though, native speakers sometimes get confused with this point too. But it's good to discuss this. Yeah. So the correct answer to someone asking, "Don't you want to learn English?" You can say, "Yes, I do." Well, I hope you do. If you want to learn English.
If you want to learn English, yeah, you say, yes, I do. But if you hate English, just say, no, I don't.
I think people, especially native speakers, use the negative question to make the question a little more polite or maybe to make the question a little softer. That's it. But just like you said, just think of it like a simple yes, no question. Don't you want to learn English? Do you want to learn English? We use them in the same way. They mean the same thing.
So can you give us another example?
Sure. Another example, maybe a daily life example. Let's see. Didn't you go to that party last weekend? And then you can answer with, yes, I did. In this case, it's a past tense negative. Didn't you go to that party? So you can answer, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. In the same way that you would answer, did you go to that party last weekend? If you get confused, then just think of it as a simple yes or no question. Replace it with do. Let's start with the basic definition of the verb check. The basic definition of the verb check is to make sure something is correct by looking at it carefully. Some examples. Can you check my homework? I checked your application. Now here are the conjugations for this verb. Present. Check, checks. Past, checked. Past participle, checked. Progressive, checking. Okay, now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to get information to confirm something. Examples. Can you check what time the movie starts? I checked with HR and they said it's okay to change the schedule. So here we see examples where the verb check is used to mean getting information to confirm something. So we need information to see if something is correct or not, or something is okay or not. In the first example sentence, can you check what time the movie starts? It means, can you go find some information to determine or to find the time that the movie begins, or the time the movie starts. So go get information and determine the correct time. In the second example sentence, I checked with HR and they said it's okay. It means, in past tense, I went to HR or I contacted HR. HR means human resources, by the way, human resources department. I went to HR or I contacted HR and I confirmed it is okay to change the schedule. So it means contacting or getting information to make sure something is okay or something is correct. To check. Okay, let's go on to the second additional meaning. The second additional meaning is to give someone items to keep for a specific period. This is usually at like a hotel or an airport. Examples. We checked our luggage before boarding. You can check your bags at the hotel reception desk. So here, to check means to give your luggage, usually luggage, or maybe it's like your coat or something, to check your coat. There's something called a coat check at like nice restaurants or in certain hotels. So to check your coat or to check your bags, to check your suitcase means to give that item to staff at that location to keep for a short period of time, like the time of your flight, the time that you're eating a meal there, the time that you are going to be out shopping away from the hotel, for example. So you check an item for a short period of time and you receive the item later when you come back or when your flight has finished, for example, to check. The third meaning is to mark as complete or okay. So if you imagine that you're filling out an application form or there's a checklist that you need to complete, you can imagine making the check motion. We use the verb to check for that motion, which means to mark something as okay or complete or finished or good or whatever. Something kind of like a confirmation. Examples. Check the boxes on the form. He checked the correct answer on the test. So in the first example sentence, check the boxes on the form. It doesn't mean look carefully at the boxes. It means physically mark the boxes with a check mark or something else similar to show you confirm that item. The second example, he checked the correct answer on the test, refers to this motion, again, confirming or marking the correct answer on a test. So using your pencil or your pen to mark the correct answer. It doesn't have to be a check symbol. It can be, but we use check, the verb to check, to refer to this action. Let's go on to the fourth additional meaning here, which is to stop some kind of behavior or to stop something continuing or to restrain something. Examples. We should try to check our spending. You should check his behavior before it gets worse. So here, to check means like to restrain something or to stop something from happening, to stop a behavior like from spreading or getting worse, as in the examples. So to check your spending, for example, that refers to restraining yourself, like trying not to spend so much money, for example. In the second example, checking someone's behavior means restraining or holding someone's behavior back or stopping bad behavior from continuing. So to check has that feeling of restraint or stopping someone's progress or stopping the progress of something, usually negative. Let's continue on to some variations in use of this verb. The first variation is check out. Check out. Actually, there are two different meanings for check out. Let's start with the first one. To check out is used to mean to finish a transaction. We use it at like supermarkets or at hotels, for example. Usually when you pay the bill or you pay the total amount due for the items you are buying. Examples. I need to check out of the hotel by 11. I'm checking out at the supermarket right now. So this means you are completing your transaction. So checking out of a hotel means like you return your room key, you repay like minibar expenses, if you bought a movie, I don't know, whatever. You complete everything you need to finish. All the procedures are completed at the end point of your stay. That's called checking out. In the second example sentence, checking out at the supermarket, that means paying your bill at the supermarket. You go shopping, you take everything to the checkout or the register, and you pay for all your items. That's called checking out. However, there is a second meaning for check out. To check out can mean to carefully look at someone you find physically attractive. Examples. I think that girl just checked you out. He checked her out from across the room. So to check someone out means to look at them because you find them physically attractive. Like you're looking carefully at like their face, their skin, their clothes, their hair. Like there's something that you find physically attractive about them, so you look kind of carefully. There's kind of a special, I suppose, look about someone when they're checking out another person, I guess. Like there's sort of like a higher level of interest than usual when you check someone out. Like it's usually kind of like secretive a little bit. Like if you check someone out and you're like really obvious about it, it's kind of weird. Most people will check someone out kind of quietly. So kind of keep it to themselves. At least I hope so. I don't know. Don't be weird about this. If you find someone physically attractive, check them out quietly and respectfully. This is not like a typical, I don't know. Don't make the other person uncomfortable. The next variation, there are actually two ways to say this next variation. They are check up on and check in with. Check up on, check in with. This means to see what the status of a person or a process is. Examples. When was the last time you checked up on your brother? Check in with me later, please. So both of these sentences refer to seeing the status of another person or like a project, for example. In the first one, it's a person. Like, when was the last time you checked up on your brother? Means when was the last time you contacted your brother or saw your brother or checked his status or saw his condition, for example. But we use checked up on. In the second example sentence, check in with me later, it means please give me some status information later. Please tell me what the status is later. So you can use check up on or check up with if you want. So they both mean that thing. It's a status issue. Hey everyone, welcome to the Monthly Review, the monthly show on language learning, where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, study tools, and resources. By the way, all the lessons and bonuses you're about to see can be downloaded for free on our website. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account. Okay, today's topic is 10 habits of highly effective language learners. Do you feel like you're not making much language progress? That you could do better, but you're just not sure what step to take? In today's episode, you'll discover the top 10 habits of effective language learners and what these learners do differently. Do you have any of these habits? Keep watching to find out. But first, listen up. Here are this month's new lessons and resources. First, the Being Funny Conversation Cheat Sheet. Want to be able to tell jokes in your target language or tell someone how funny or unfunny they are? You'll learn how with this brand new cheat sheet. Second, all the language you need for everyday life. Get all of our best conversation cheat sheets rolled up into one. This bundle will get you speaking more. Download it right now before it disappears. Third, must-know book vocabulary. If you love reading and want to talk about books, check out this 1-minute lesson. It'll teach you all of the must-know vocabulary. Fourth, phrases to use with the doctor. Learn how to say phrases like, I have an appointment, I don't feel well, and much more. Fifth, summer plans conversation lesson. Can you talk about your summer plans? Like take a trip and relax at the beach, or stay at home and sit on the internet? You'll be able to with this 1-minute lesson. 10 habits of highly effective language learners. If you walk away from this lesson and remember only one habit, let it be this one. Habit number 1, setting small, measurable goals with a deadline. For example, do 30 of our language lessons by the end of this month. 30 is small. You're not learning the whole language here. It's measurable. Either you did 28 or you hit 30. And you know when to reach it by, which gives you motivation. Let's expand on this point even further. You should also set goals for every study session. For example, if your goal is to do 30 lessons in a month, and if a month has 30 days, you know you need to do 1 lesson a day. Our lessons can be anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes long. That gives you your goal for the day. For your study session, do 1 lesson and spend up to 15 minutes on it. That way, you're not confused about what to do or how long to study for. You know what you can expect to accomplish. Another powerful lesson here is that goals take away anxiety. Here's why. Imagine you set a big, vague goal, like I want to be fluent someday. You don't have a plan, but you buy a textbook. You read the first chapter, and then you start worrying about whether you're really learning. You don't know how far you should go, and you have no real plan or specific goal. Then you start worrying about if you'll ever be fluent, so you lose motivation and quit. But if you set a small goal, you know you need to do just 1 lesson a day, 15 minutes. That's it. Habit number 2, creating routines. This ties back to the first habit. If you set a goal like do 30 lessons in 1 month, you know that you need to do 1 lesson a day. This is how you create your routine. You should decide when and where to study as well. Even if you're putting in just 5 minutes a day, you have to know when and where you'll do it. Why? So you can make time, make a mental note that this time is language time, and say no to other things that come up. Just like you know when it's time to brush your teeth, you should know when it's time to do a little language learning. Creating and sticking with a routine is a great habit to have because the routine is what turns your goals into reality. Habit number 3, don't cram. Most of us crammed back in school. We'd wait till the last day, then study for 5 hours. Even if you pass the test, you still forget it all. But with language, you want to remember it so you can use it. Luckily, our lessons are short and sweet, so you're not spending hours on your studies. The point is that 5 minutes a day, every day, is better than doing 5-hour cram sessions and burning yourself out. Habit number 4, prepare lines and conversations ahead of time. What do we mean by prepare? Imagine you want to open a bank account in your target language. You can show up at the front desk and grunt and point and try to communicate with body language. Or you can prepare. You look up words like bank account, open, and all the relevant phrases. Or even easier, you can find a lesson on our site. If you want to prepare for daily conversations, then check out our top 25 questions you must know for conversations lessons. These teach you how to ask and answer basic questions like how are you, how was your weekend, and much more. In fact, most of our lessons are based around practical daily dialogues. We give you the exact lines to say, whether for conversations with friends, for shopping, or for opening a bank account. So, preparing is a must. It gives you a foundation of words and phrases you can use. It places you miles ahead of other learners. Number 5, get into the habit of producing output. Input is taking language in, listening and reading. Output is putting language out, so speaking and writing. The big point here is that it's very easy to sit back and listen and read. You can listen to lessons all day long, but listening helps with listening. It won't get you speaking the language. Here are some of the easiest ways to produce output. For speaking, repeat what you hear out loud. For writing, copy out the lesson vocabulary and dialogue by hand. Again, you need to practice. Habit number 6, come back and review. A lot of times, what we learn goes in one ear and out the other, which means we don't really learn. This is where reviewing comes in. When you're done with a lesson, come back a few days later and do another round. You'll likely come across words and phrases you've forgotten. Or even easier, download the dialogue track or the lesson notes and review those at a later date. Number 7, look for solutions. An important difference between experienced learners and new learners is in how they react when they don't understand something. Inexperienced learners rely completely on their study tools and tend to blame the tools for their lack of progress. You'll often hear people talk about giving up because a textbook was too boring or because the textbook didn't teach them to speak. Experienced learners look for solutions. If they realize a specific study tool, like a textbook, isn't going to help them speak, they look for a better solution. Textbooks can teach you grammar and vocabulary words, so they're valuable resources. But if speaking is your goal, you have to look for ways to practice speaking, like reading out loud or working with a conversation partner. Number 8, focus on what you're good at. The reason we say this is because it's good for motivation overall. If you're generally better at speaking than writing, you're more likely to enjoy it, which means you're more likely to continue with it. That means it's a successful routine, and routines are what turn your goals into reality. Number 9, don't procrastinate. This is easier said than done, but it's important. A lot of us procrastinate as a result of overthinking. For example, let's say you plan on studying for an hour today. So you remember, I have to study tonight for a whole hour. I don't think I have the time. It's gonna be hard, but I should really try. And it becomes something you have to do, which is a hassle. You've already ruined it for yourself in your head. But if you have a small and measurable goal and an easy routine, just 5 minutes a day, for example, that's not much work to do. 5 minutes and you're done. If you want to beat procrastination, make sure to make your goals and routines easy and realistic. Number 10, remember that learning a language is a marathon and not a sprint. It's a long-term game. Remembering this is a good habit to have. If you're having a bad day or if you missed a goal, that doesn't mean it's all over. It's just a minor stumble in the grand scheme. So, let's recap. Number 1, get into the habit of setting small, measurable goals. Number 2, create a routine. Number 3, don't cramp. Number 4, prepare lines and conversations ahead of time. Number 5, get into the habit of producing output. Number 6, come back and review. Number 7, look for solutions. Number 8, focus on what you're good at. Number 9, don't procrastinate. Number 10, remember that learning a language is a marathon and not a sprint. So thank you for watching this episode of Monthly Review. Most people who learn a foreign language learn it so that they can one day have real-life conversations with native speakers. When you start out learning and crack open your first textbook or listen to your first podcast, having a real conversation can feel like a fantasy. When everything about a language feels new, it can be overwhelming. But this couldn't be further from the truth. While it does take a significant amount of time and effort to become fluent, having a conversation might not be as far off as you think. In this video, we'll look at 3 ways you can boost your conversational skills and start talking to native speakers. Number 1, find native speakers and practice with them. It's unlikely you live near a big group of native speakers to practice with. If you happen to be in a major or international city, your chances may be better. Check and see if your city has a general language exchange. Chances are there could be a native speaker there who is also trying to learn another language. Practicing in person with a native speaker is probably the most interesting option for honing your speaking skills. But if you can't find anyone where you live, the next best option is to look online. Luckily for language learners, the past 10 years or so have seen an explosion in online language exchange sites. On these websites, you can search for someone who is a native speaker of your target language and is also learning your native language. The idea behind a language exchange is that you communicate with them via video or text chat, and half of the time, they help you practice your target language. And for the other half, you help them practice theirs. Practicing via an online language exchange is a highly effective way to practice your conversational skills. Number 2, work on pronunciation. Pronunciation is often an overlooked skill when it comes to learning a foreign language. Most people think of a good foreign accent as a luxury rather than a necessity. But what most people don't talk about is how having a good accent boosts your listening and comprehension skills. If you can hear a sound from a foreign language and know how to make it yourself, then you're more likely to understand native speakers when they talk at normal speed, and you're also more likely to remember any new words or phrases you come across. Having a good accent means that the language no longer sounds foreign. Instead, it sounds familiar, maybe even natural. So how do you go about perfecting your accent? The best way is to break down the language into its individual sounds. Make note of any sounds that are the same or similar to your native language and of those that are different. Of the sounds that are different, spend your time practicing the ones that you find the hardest to say correctly. After you're comfortable with the individual sounds, you can start linking together words and phrases. This is where accent practice starts to get really fun and interesting. Get your hands on some native speaker audio from a TV show, song, or podcast. Play the audio back and listen closely a few times. Take note of how words blend together in speech. Then, do your best to imitate what you hear, trying to match the speaker's emphasis and intonation. Our language learning program's playback feature is perfect for this. Record yourself and compare it to the original recording. Rinse and repeat until you're comfortable with the audio selection, and then move on to something more difficult. This is how you can break through the accent barrier and really start to make the language your own. Number 3, Learn phrases, not just individual words. Learning grammar and individual words is great, but it's not the only approach you should take if you want to speak fluently. In addition to your regular grammar and vocabulary, try learning whole phrases, even if you aren't totally sure how they work grammatically. Learn phrases that are specific to your needs. It's a good idea to learn phrases that are grouped around a certain setting or subject, such as simple greetings or introductions, questions for getting to know someone, or traveling comfortably. You can even learn filler phrases, which you can use so that you have something to say when, well, you don't know what to say. Learning phrases like this will help you become conversational faster. You may not understand what you're saying literally, but as long as you know the general meaning behind the phrase and know when to use it, you'll be able to talk like a native. Eventually, your knowledge of grammar and vocabulary should catch up with the phrases you know. Learning a new language should feel like an adventure. There will be plateaus and periods in your learning where it feels like you're hitting a wall, but being able to speak with native speakers and have real conversations will help you combat language fatigue. After all, talking to someone face-to-face in a foreign language is one of the main reasons we start learning in the first place. If you want to learn a language but don't have a lot of time to dedicate to the endeavor, you need to study as efficiently as possible. You probably aren't a language learning expert or a world traveler. You might have school or a job or two. So in this video, we'll give you 3 ways to help you learn language more efficiently so that you get the most out of your time and effort. Number 1. Use your time when you have it. The most valuable resource you have as a language learner is time. While you may not have to spend money to learn a language, you will have to spend time. Hours and minutes are a currency that you trade on a weekly basis to grow in your language learning. Language learning is probably a priority for you. It might not be the number 1 priority, like keeping your job or taking care of your family, but it does have to be important enough for you to invest significant amounts of time into your learning. There's just no way around it. That being said, use your time wisely. Because of previous commitments, you can quickly fall into the trap of putting your language learning off, thinking, oh, I'll do it next week, or Saturday, I'll do it Saturday. Needless to say, a few weeks can go by and you haven't really learned or practiced anything. If you find that happening, then take some time and reevaluate your approach. It's probably a long shot for you to be able to spend hours every day learning a new foreign language, but you can use your time to spend an hour or even just 10 minutes a day, every day, studying or practicing. If you're on a busy schedule, an hour a day can sound like reaching for the stars, so start slowly with just a 5-minute lesson. Over time, as you learn more and it becomes more routine, you'll want to spend more time studying. And your studying doesn't even need to be all at once. Make use of the little gaps of time you have in the day. Listen to a podcast while driving to and from work. Review new words while on lunch break or right before bed. Even a quick review while in line at the store or waiting for the bus. Together, these moments add up. This way, your little study session will add up to around 60 minutes of practice every day. You'll quickly be able to see significant improvement in your language abilities. Number 2, don't method jump. When you're new to language learning, there's a temptation to try out the newest course, app, or method. There are more language learning tools and courses than I can list. But jumping around from podcast to podcast or from textbook to textbook can really hinder your learning process. It's important to find the best method for you, but when you do, stick with it. Don't get distracted by the newest app, or if you suddenly find something faster, cheaper, claiming it can teach you a language with no work on your part. Stick with your learning course or tool. Consistent practice over a period of time is what is essential for language learning. If you hit a bump or plateau, you might be tempted to think, maybe there's a faster or better way to learn. So you search around and buy the next best language learning tool, only to use it for a couple weeks and realize it wasn't really any better than the last course you tried, and the same difficulties you had are still there. If you're learning your first new language and you pick a specific method or course, we suggest you stick with it for at least 3 to 4 months. You actually hurt yourself in the long run if you constantly switch between resources because you never give yourself the opportunity to progress. Number 3, focus on one thing at a time. When you decide to learn a new language, you're going to be really excited. You have all your resources lined up, a plan in place, and you're ready to go. You think you'll spend 3 to 4 hours a day practicing and that you'll be fluent in no time, but that's only for about 3 days. Then you probably will get a little bit discouraged and avoid it for another 3 days. And this process might repeat 3 or 4 times before you realize that you might be approaching things the wrong way. You can't devour a whole new language in a very short time. You'll burn out immediately. It's better to focus on one small part of the language at a time, either a specific grammar point or a specific vocabulary topic. In the beginning, these should be based on the parts of the language you'll use right away. Even in the business world, research shows that replacing less important tasks with ones that add value and help you reach your goals is the best way to get the most out of your time. As you advance through the language and your level increases, try to pinpoint the harder aspects of the language and work on them one at a time. Learning a foreign language isn't easy. It takes time and work, but it is possible. If you stick to your learning plans and stay focused, you will see improvement in your skills and find satisfaction in using the language. Remember that learning a language is really more like a journey. It doesn't have to feel like school or work. Savor your experience with learning and enjoy every step along the way. There's a saying that trust is hard to earn, yet easy to lose. The same can be said for foreign language skills. Being proficient in a new language takes hours of practice and study. But if you stop using the language, it will fade from your memory. To put it simply, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's why it's so important to incorporate the language into your daily life as much as possible if you're serious about learning. But how do you do that if you don't live in the country? In this video, we'll look at 5 ways you can use your target language on a daily basis and immerse yourself in the language, even if you don't live near native speakers. Number 1. Live your digital life in your target language. As access to technology increases, people are living more and more of their lives on the internet. Use this lifestyle of constant connection to your advantage. Most devices, laptops, phones, tablets, or other connected gadgets, have an option to put their operating system in another language. Why not put the devices you use in the language you're studying? Just scrolling through things on your smartphone won't make you fluent, but it will force you to interact with the language every day in a small way. When it comes to foreign language acquisition, every little bit helps. You can even switch your social media platforms or web browsers to your target language. The time you spend on your devices now becomes study time. Number 2. Relax in your target language. Everybody likes to kick back and entertain themselves in some way. Why not use this part of your day to learn more? Try looking for TV shows, music, or movies in your target language. You can use subtitles or follow along by reading lyrics if your level in the language is on the lower side. It also helps if you approach this language learning time as fun and not work. Don't force yourself to watch movies you don't like or listen to a kind of music you have no interest in. The point is to keep a casual, relaxed study environment. Number 3. Journal or keep a diary in your target language. It might not be so common to write out your thoughts or the events of your day in a journal anymore, but it can be a great language learning habit. You can do this by writing by hand in a notebook or on a laptop using a foreign language keyboard. That way, you don't have to worry about your handwriting and can even practice typing in your target language. As you try to express your thoughts in a foreign language, you might find gaps in your vocabulary. This is a good thing. Filling in these gaps is what will build your skills and increase your ability in the language. If you're not sure how to correct your own journal entries, you might want to try finding a site online which will allow you to upload writing and have it corrected by native speakers. Number 4. Language exchange with native speakers. A language exchange is a classic way to learn a language. In a language exchange, 2 people who speak different native languages help each other practice. For example, if you're a native Spanish speaker and are learning English, you would find a native English speaker who is learning Spanish. Partners take turns speaking their target language, and the native speaker provides help and corrections. This is one of the most ideal ways to practice your speaking skills. So, where do you meet native speakers? If you don't live in a country where the language is spoken, your first option is to check around locally. Are there any language clubs or exchanges around your city? Check out meetup websites. You can also check around local universities. If there's a language club that meets nearby, you may be able to find some native speakers. If you can't find a partner or a group to meet with in person, check online. There are a good number of foreign language exchanges, most of which are completely free to use. Number 5. Work with someone else learning the language. Another great way to sharpen your language skills is to work with another person who is also learning the language. If your level is higher than theirs, you'll learn a lot by trying to teach them or help them understand difficult concepts. If your level is lower, you'll be able to draw from their advice and experience. If nothing else, you have a new language partner to practice with. It's easy to forget sometimes that using a foreign language is actually what makes language learning so fulfilling. Sometimes, after hitting a plateau or struggling with the language, you can forget why you started learning it in the first place. So whether you're learning in a class or you're teaching yourself the language, daily immersion will help you enjoy the language and keep your skills sharp. Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.